Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Dr. Carmen Bryant and this is Redefining Yourself. This is a program where we're discussing overcoming narcissist abuse. So to all the new subscribers, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for finding something relevant that I have to say that pertains to your life, your situation, even your thoughts of coming out or recognizing where you are, or even what you have been through. There are people that have been married for 35 years. I think the longest marriage we've had so far on YouTube, one of the subscribers said 34 years, and they came out and then had to look back at what they've been through, and they recognize now that they were in a narcissistic relationship, and realizing that no matter what they did, no matter what they tried to do, they couldn't make the situation better, and so thank goodness that you guys have found the YouTube channel or other people's YouTube channel and are learning something now and learning how to be free of this type of predatory abuse. I was speaking to one lady via YouTube, and we were discussing the difference between narcissist abuse and domestic violence. Narcissist abuse is domestic violence. Everything that they do is domestic violence. The power and the control, the manipulation, the mind games, everything that they do, that is domestic violence. So if you look at the power and control wheel, or if you go look at the National Domestic Violence Hotline online, and it describes what domestic violence is, domestic violence, that is exactly what a narcissist does. The only thing is that who we are talking about on these YouTube channels, when you're talking about narcissist abuse, you're talking about a perpetrator or an individual that is committing domestic violence, but fits the category for cluster B disorders, which falls under, the cluster B is the narcissistic personality disorder, the antisocial personality disorder. So that cluster right there. And so we just happen to be talking about an individual that fits the description for narcissistic personality disorder. But they are committing domestic violence. That's what they're doing. It just so happened that they have a personality disorder. And so it is the same thing. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm trying to scratch. I got makeup on, and I don't want to just wipe all my makeup off while I'm scratching. Sorry about that. So if you have not already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It is Dr. Carmen Bryant, Overcoming Narcissist Abuse, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload new videos. I usually upload pre-recorded videos Tuesday. Well, I record the same day. I just upload them Tuesday through Friday, and it allows me to stay focused, because if you guys are asking me questions, I'll stop what I'm talking about to focus on your questions. And so I do pre-record Tuesday through Friday and upload. And so on Sundays, I do come on live. So if you ever want to come on live with me and you want to talk to me, I love talking to you guys, and you ask me questions, and I provide you with encouragement. You are welcome to join me on Sundays between 8 and 9 Pacific Standard Time, which is West Coast time in the U.S. To all my UK friends, I think I have friends from UK now, Australia, Philippines, Japan, Canada, Germany, Denmark, Mali, Korea. Thank you guys. So if I forgot anyone, please, Brazil, we have Brazil. Thank you guys so much for joining me and finding something valuable that I have to say. And hopefully this is helping you in your journey of recovery or even discovery. And so today I wanted to talk about the effects or the brain damage that can be caused by long-term narcissist abuse or emotional psychological abuse, which in this case we're talking about the narcissist. And so I wanted to, before I go to the meat of it all, let me go to this one is called selfgrowth.com, the online self-improvement community. It just so happened that I just happened to be reading over something that was written on here. Who was this written by? Let me look. It was a little article on here. It's called selfgrowth.com, and it's emotional abuse and brain structural damage. It was just, and I think it was written by Michael Locklear, but it's just this little piece that I wanted to take out for just a minute. So, and it said here, it said emotional abuse results in damage to the hippocampus, a brain area involving in learning and memory ability. This damage results in associated memory deficits. That's why a lot of you come out with brain fogs, brain fogs. You can't think clearly, you can't think straight, you're confused a lot, according to studies from Yale University School of Medicine, Yale Psychiatric Institute, and the Department of Biological Sciences at Stanford University. Intense stress from emotional abuse floods the brain with hormones such as cortisol. cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and opiates, which results in eventual shrinkage of the hippocampus, according to Pierce J. Howard, PhD, in his book, The Owner's Manual for the Brain. So the cortisol, remember, it gives you the big belly. For a lot of us women, it gives us the big belly and the weight gain. And so now let's go over to Psych Central, and this is by Kim Said. And some of you guys know her. She is a coach. She does come on YouTube. You guys go check her out. And she wrote an article. She's an author and a researcher and an educator. And she wrote, long-term narcissist abuse can damage the brain. And so let's see. So let me skip down right to it. Okay, so she said here, let's look. Well, what she did say is that's why it's best for those of you that are in narcissistic relationship, especially if you've been in long term, it's best to get out as quickly as you possibly can, because the results of this psychological abuse, not only in post-traumatic, it results in post-traumatic stress or complex post-traumatic stress, but it also affects the hippocampus, the portion of the brain, and we'll talk about that. But it does, affect the brain, causing the hippocampus to shrink. And so in here, she says that most of us know that repeated emotional trauma leads to both PTSD and complex PTSD, which is the reason why we should leave as quickly as possible. But what many people don't realize that over time, these repeated emotional injuries shrink the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and learning, while enlarging, remember, I'm going to mess this up, you guys, the amygdala. It looks like amygdala, but the amygdala, I think that's what it is, which houses primitive emotions such as fear, grief, guilt, envy, and shame. And so let's look here. So the hippocampus helps store and release memory. The hippocampus is especially vital to short-term memory, the retaining in the mind of a piece of data for a few moments, after which it gets transferred to a permanent memory or immediately forgotten. So the hippocampus is, a lot of us, you got short memory, and then is moved into the long-term memory bank. So that portion of your brain is affected. The short memory is affected. Another thing, it says here, it says that among many analyses that have been conducted, one in particular shows very disturbing results. In a study conducted by a team of the University of New Orleans and Stanford University researchers, patients with the highest baseline cortisol, the stress hormone, and great number of PTSD symptoms had the greatest decrease in hippocampal volume over time. So you see, it has been affected. In other words, you stay an emotionally abusive partner, stay with them for a long time, the more deterioration you can expect of the hippocampus. The longer you stay in the relationship, the more deterioration, there we go, is expected of the hippocampus. It can especially be easily understood that this neurological process may enhance feeling of confusion, cognitive dissonance, and abuse amnesia in victims of narcissistic and psychopathic abuse. And so that abuse amnesia, you forget those particular aspects or important aspects of the abuse because you're focused on all the good things. Remember, that happens in the trauma bonding. So the amygdala, so now we're going to talk about the amygdala. So remember, the narcissist, here she says the same thing that I've said in the videos, which is they constantly keep the victims, or those that you've been involved with narcissists, they constantly keep you in a state of anxiety and fear, which in turn causes the victims to react from the amygdala, or the reptilian brain. The amygdala controls life functions such as breathing and heart rate and basic emotions of love, hate, fear, and lust, all of which are considered primal emotions. So, as we said in these, as I said in other videos, is that a narcissist always keeps you on edge, always keeps you walking on eggshells, always keeps you anxious. Someone, I think, said that whenever the narcissist pulled up in the parking lot, they got anxious right away. Anytime that, you knew they were coming, or, you're not sure if you did something right, you become angry. You're always anxious around them, anxious, because you know that at any moment they'll blow up. And so you're constantly anxious. Everybody anxious. Remember I said the fish were anxious, the cat's anxious, Everyone is always anxious because that's the environment they keep you in. They constantly keep you in anxiety in order to control you. It also, this is, if you look at the video Trauma Bonding 1 and 2 that I did, this is, they keep you in that constant state of anxiety. And so it's also, so the amygdala is also responsible for the fight or flight reaction. Victims of narcissist abuse, and see, that's a part of post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, the amygdala has been affected where it's totally, that adrenaline and that fight or flight response is constantly turned on. Your body is constantly in a state of, we got to do something, we have to protect ourselves. And remember, when that adrenaline is pumping and you're in that fight or flight response, fight, flight, or freeze response, you have all this adrenaline pumping into your muscles. And what happens is, the way that the brain function is that in that fight or flight, and your brain or your body is being told that we have to protect ourselves, we have to do something, the energy and the strength is released to those muscles, and the blood source and all that, the blood, it is decreased, it decreases from the major organs so that you can focus on the muscles. But if you're stuck on that open valve and you're constantly have this adrenaline pumping into your muscles, you know, this is where your immune system starts breaking down. You know, you begin to have like joint issues, muscle issues, fibromyalgia. Your immune system, you know, is not working, and is working overtime to try to keep you from something as simple as the common cold. And so victims of narcissist abuse live in a state of anxiety almost every day. And most of you guys, you know, you do understand that. And so with the amygdala, the things that we felt, saw, and heard each time we had a painful experience. So it's the triggers. When you're triggered, you know, and we'll get to it. Let me get to it. So subliminal hints of stressful events, such as photos, will set off the organ's attack or escape routes, triggering avoidance behaviors or internal turmoil. So the triggers set you off to the fight, flight, or freeze response again. So your body is back in a state of anxiety from triggers, from memories, from photos, from smells, from certain voice tones, from certain things that people say. You know, one person said that every time the narcissist says, we need to talk, or, hey, I need to talk to you, that right there was a trigger. So when other people like, hey, I need to talk to you, you know, they were triggered immediately. Certain tones in their voices, you know, certain smells, certain looks, certain people, you know, certain areas, you're triggered. You know, all this is triggered back into the fight or flight. And so this is why, just like she recommends, I have recommended, do not stalk your ex. Do not stalk the narcissist on social media. Cut the social media off. Block them from your telephones. Don't go look at pictures. I don't care, because it's an addiction. Remember, we were talking about the addiction. Go watch my video on addictions, because it's an addiction and you're trying to wean yourself off to cut yourself total no contact. No contact doesn't mean you're just not talking to the individuals. Total no contact means you cut off their friends, you cut off family that can be toxic, you cut off the flying monkeys that were mutual friends, you cut them off of social media, you cut them off of your phone, take the pictures, destroy pictures, get rid of anything in the house that reminds you of them, in order to, when you have that no contact space, that gives you time to recuperate. That gives your brain time to recuperate from the trauma that you have been in. And then that fight, flight, or freeze, it begins to lower itself. And we're going to talk about that as well. So you need to go no contact. Cut them off of social media. Do not stalk them on social media. They know that you're looking, so they do certain things to incite you. Okay? So even after toxic relationships have ended, victims suffer post-traumatic stress and complex post-traumatic stress. So that involves panic attacks. You may have like phobias or agoraphobia, meaning that now because you've been so isolated, now you have a fear of going out in public places or being out in public or in even crowds. Let's see. And that is because, you know, due to the triggering of the primal fears by overactive amygdala. Of these fears, targets of narcissist abuse often engage in primitive defense mechanism, including but are not limited to denial. So, you know, your brain has the brain overcompensates to protect you from anxiety, you know, and a lot of times it's overwhelming for the brain as well. And so the brain tries to regulate itself and normalize experiences and things that you have been through. Some of the things that we have done and victims have done is denial. So victims use denial to escape dealing with the painful feelings or areas of their life that they didn't want to admit. So a lot of times you deny how bad the abuse really was, and you focus, and that's the compartmentalization. Victims pigeonhole the abusive aspects of the relationship in order to focus on the positive aspects. So a lot of people are focusing on the love bombing aspects, where they presented themselves one way, which was a facade or an illusion, because you can't believe that a person can be that bad. And so so you deny that that person can be that bad. You make up excuses. Remember, if you keep making up excuses for them, then there's a problem. Anytime you're making up excuses and you won't let them be accountable for what they have done or how bad it really was, but I know what this individual is like. I know that they're not like this because when I met them, they were like this and they were like this for a long time. So I know something happened. No, what you're seeing now is what they're really like. What you saw before was a facade, but you deny that they're actually that bad. You make up excuses for them because you do not want to, and it's hard. I understand that. It's hard to register and really believe that someone did you this way and they never cared. That's the hardest part. A lot of people that email me and talk to me, the hardest thing that they can't register is like, I can't believe I've been with this person for this long and nothing was real. They never loved me. They never loved my children. We have children together and they never cared about my kids and still don't. But I can't believe that I spent that much time with this individual and they really never loved me. They never had the capacity to do it. That's the part in your head that you can't get past. A lot of people cannot get past that. I cannot believe this. I've given up my life. I've given up this. I did this all these years and they just left like it was nothing, like it was no relationship. That's because you are thinking from a standpoint of an empathetic person that's able to connect and bond with people. You're not thinking like a narcissist. Narcissists do not have emotions, bonding capacity, or empathy. You do. That lets you know how normal you really are. But the shock of it is I cannot believe. So a lot of times it's denial, compartmentalization, meaning, taking the bad parts out and focus. That's what makes people relapse and go back into the relationship when you begin to look at all the good things. And that's how they hoover you back into the relationship. They totally discard and do not discuss all the bad things about themselves. They just focus on all the you remember how good it was when we cuddled and we had sex and we did this. And, you keep focusing on the bad things. What about all the good things? Because probably the bad things outweigh the good things. That's what you have to focus on. So a lot of you that are coming out, you have you almost have this desire, because remember you're detoxing, and so you have the desire to be back with them. It's almost like I much rather go through the abuse than to be without them, because you're feeling, first of all, you're feeling the cognitive dissonance, and at the same time, you remember the hippocampus has been damaged. Another thing is projection. Victims or survivors project their traits of compassion, empathy, caring, and understanding onto the abuser, when in fact the narcissist and other emotional abusers possess none of those traits. You take all your compassion and you say, but they reciprocated that. No, they mimic you. Well, I know they love me because this is how I felt. No, they mirrored you. And so you are looking at your own self. They're mirroring you. So it's almost like, like a force field. It hits and reflects back on you. Projects. It hits and projects back on you because they're just mirroring you. And so what you're feeling is yourself. They're mimicking, they're mocking, they're mirroring you. Let's see, what's the next thing? So let's see. Some of this is really, really like scientific, so I don't want to go over scientific with you guys. Let's see. Make it something easy. Okay. So there are reparative activities you can do to restore and rebuild your hippocampus and stop the hijacking of your psyche by your amygdala. So remember, a lot of you that have been in a relationship with narcissists, long-term, some of the long-term effects, and some of you have been in not even a very long time, your brain has been affected. And so that's why a lot of you that are coming out, you say that I have this brain fog. Like I'm always confused. I can't make decisions for myself. It's like I don't even trust my own opinions. I don't trust my decisions, because the hippocampus has been affected. You literally have brain damage from this. This, though, the good thing about this, though, is that it can be repaired. That's why I say get out of the relationship, stay no contact. The no contact gives you space to heal and regain your strength. And you have to get into some type of counseling. And those of you that cannot find counseling, I'm just gonna say a few things here, maybe give you some ideas, but go to psychologytoday.com, is Psychology Today, and you can look for counselors that are trauma professionals or counselors. You interview the counselor, you ask the counselor questions, and I tell all my clients, when you come and you talk to me, we're going to interview each other, and I'm going to see if you're a good fit for me, and you're going to see if you're a good, if I'm a good fit for you. Just because you think I'm a good fit for you may not be you're a good fit for me. I may not be able to. It's not, the one thing that a therapist should do, they should never be that prideful to assume that they can help everybody. I can't help everybody. I'm there for certain people, and I'm assigned to certain people, but even to a certain point where I can take them to a certain level, and then may have to hand them off to my colleague to take them to another level. And so, you have to know that we have limitations too, and then there are some times when, and even though I'm a trauma professional, sometimes I recognize that this may be a little more intensive or beyond, because I am a private practitioner. And so I really like to coordinate and connect with medical professionals and med providers, psychiatrists, doctors, a group, to have a support net for people that are severely traumatized. I even have to limit at how much, when a person is severely traumatized, how far I can go with them within a private setting, because I don't have, in the beginning when I did my training, a lot of times I worked with a mental health facility, and we were contracted out to the community health clinics. So I worked with a wonderful resident. She was a psychiatrist, a wonderful resident. For those of you that know UW here in Washington, University of Washington, and she was a resident psychiatrist and took upon a program which was formerly known as the general. What was it called? The Disability Lifeline Program, General Assistant of Unemployability or something like that. But it was a grant before the insurance companies actually opened up for mental health and people were getting insurance. But it was a grant by the state to help those that cannot afford medical and mental health services. And it was a grant, and it was a program that was developed where we sat in medical clinics. Well, I sat in the medical clinics, and I worked with people that were in the medical that were with the medical arena, and I worked with the patients and the clients that needed mental health services. What worked so well is it was a community, it was a body of professionals. You had doctors, PAs, medical assistants, med prescribers. The psychiatrist did the med prescribing and worked with me, and she taught me a lot about distinguishing the difference between mental and medical problems. And so when I do assessments, I focus on, I'm not quick to go and refer to med prescribers, because sometimes they're prescribing medications for a medical problem, and sometimes a medical problem may look like a mental health problem, and so sometimes people are medicating a medical problem when it's actually a mental health problem, and it's actually a medical problem. And so even with brain damage, you have traumatic brain injury, you have, and in this situation, you have, you do have brain injury. It may not, it may not be a TBI by concussion, and for some people that have been, the narcissist actually physically hit you, or beat you, or hit you across the head. My suggestion is to go have an MRI or a CAT scan to see if there is any traumatic brain injury, if there is any type of trauma to your brain. And in this situation, there is some damage to the hippocampus, because that is where the emotions are housed, short memories housed. So some of you are coming out of these relationships with brain fog, and the longer you stay no contact, to give yourself space to recover, the more you're going to start noticing that brain fog lifting, and you'll begin to think clearly. I remember I was sitting in the car, and when that fog lifted, I was looking out my front windshield. I was like, does my windshield have HD? It's like the whole world was in HD. Like everything was clear. I understood better, so think about that, because when that brain fog lifts, it's like you can literally think clear. You can literally look at your situation, and you'll have that aha, like, I cannot believe I was in this situation. But while you're in the situation and fresh out of the situation, you don't see the situation clearly. And the longer you go no contact, the more that fog and that confusion starts lifting, counseling, because remember, they're keeping you almost hostage. And so they constantly apply that pressure, that fear, that anxiety to keep you in a state of fog and confusion through gaslighting, through abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. So you're constantly questioning yourself. Your mind is like a computer that is trying to reset itself, and it can't. Once you stay no contact, the longer you stay no contact, the more your mind starts clearing up, and the more you begin to look. And that's where most people have the aha. And when I see them in counseling, when they finally hit it, I know when they hit it, when they finally hit that aha, and they finally get a revelation of the situation, I know that brain fog is lifted, because then they start breaking down and crying and like, I cannot believe that this person never cared. And they have the realization of their situation. And some of you are in that, and it's painful. And so here are some ideas of how to help you with clearing up. First of all, counseling. When I went through my certification for trauma professional, one of the things that the studies were showing, it talked about all these different types of modalities and methodologies that are used in counseling. You have cognitive behavior therapy, you got dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, CBT, you've got solution focus, you got brief, you have all these different modalities of therapy. But the main thing in there, it was the fact that a person was going to counseling. That was the biggest thing to recovery. Doesn't matter what modality you use or methodology that you use. It's the fact that you actually went to counseling. And so you're going to counseling. That's the first start of the healing process of this trauma. Other things, it says here, brain scans have now shown, thanks to the magic of neuroplasticity, meaning that the brain is able to regenerate itself. And I'm going to give you guys an author too. Make sure you guys go look up. For those of you that are not Christian, I understand, I respect everybody's, whatever your belief system is. There's a doctor by the name of, she did the book, Who Shut Off My Brain? Dr. Caroline Leaf, Leaf. She is I think she's a brain specialist. I don't know if she's a psychiatrist, or a brain specialist, whatever she is. She has done studies on people that have dementia, and she took a patient and worked with the patient and applied her studies on this patient. And anyone that knows anything about dementia knows that eventually it just gets bad. It gets to a point where they just don't remember anything. She took this patient who was I don't know what level of dementia they were in, and she applied her studies on this person. This person recovered and went to college. And so she talks a lot about who shut off my brain, how to turn on your brain. But it's Dr. Caroline Leaf. She is a Christian, I think, psychiatrist. But for those of you that are not Christians, take the principles of what she's saying and apply your methodology. But just take the principles of what she's saying to restructure your brain. Go purchase her book. Go look her up, Dr. Caroline Leaf. She deals a lot with the brain and recovering and refocusing, resetting the brain, healing the brain. Okay, and so here, it does talks about the possibilities of the hippocampus to grow again. So effective methods include, go look for, when you go to psychology today, for those of you that have been traumatized like this, go find therapists that specialize in EMDR. EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And a recent study showed that 8 to 12 sessions of EMDR for patients with PTSD showed an average of 6% increase in volume of their hippocampus. My colleague, who is no longer here, when she was here, she did EMDR, and she did, and it with the eyes moving back and forth, you're actually resetting the brain. You are resetting the brain from the trauma. And she also did biofeedback. And I used to watch kids get on the computer. She specialized with children. And I used to watch kids get on there, and she would put the probes on their head and teach the brain to relax. She would teach the brain, she would do the EMDR and then put them on biofeedback, and it teaches how the brain relaxes. But I used to watch them play Pac-Man with their mind. So they have the probes on their head, they're looking at the computer monitor, and they're literally playing Pac-Man with their mind. I was so fascinated. I was like, wow, the brain is powerful. And so EMDR, biofeedback, look for that, if the the therapists that specialize. I really want to get into EMDR. It is a very expensive training, but I have seen a lot of results for them, and I really would like to get into the EMDR and the biofeedback training just based off of watching what she used to do. And it was powerful because a lot of these people that have been traumatized and deal with PTSD, a lot of them, their stress levels went down. Your cortisol levels will go down. And so it says here, EMDR is beneficial for counteracting hyperarousal of the amygdala, allowing the brain allowing the brain to more appropriately direct what needs to happen rather than to remain stuck and unnecessarily trigger problematic emotions. Remember, the valve is stuck on, so the adrenaline is pumping, the anxiety is high, and you're messing with your health. Okay, your immune system is being affected. Some other methods methods have shown to repair both the hippocampus and the amygdala is also guided meditation. So recent studies from Harvard University show that daily meditation can help repair the brain by actually rebuilding the brain's gray matter. That's why it's so important to stay no contact and get into some type of guided meditation. For those of you that can't afford counseling or may not have insurance, go look on YouTube and look for guided meditation. And it will give you, you can find anything on YouTube. I think I fixed a light bulb in the back of my car because I couldn't figure out how to get into the tail lights, and so I happened to find that on YouTube to be able to put the lights in there and the lights up underneath my car. I'm a soldier. I can do it myself. I'll repair the whole car, but I'm a lady. But go on YouTube and you can find guided meditations that will take you through guided meditations to learn to calm yourself down. Let's see. It said the study participants who spent an average of 27 minutes per day practicing mindful exercises showed a major increase in the density of the hippocampus and the amygdala and associated reductions in stress compared to a control group. Aromatherapy and essential oils. Aromatherapy and meditations, essential steps in recovering from narcissist abuse. I love fragrances. Whenever you guys, or if any of you guys ever meet me in person, I hope you do not have allergies because I am a walking fragrance, and so is my mentor. So if you have allergies and you get around me, I am a walking, I love fragrances. It's very calming, it's very soothing. My house is full of fragrances. My poor child has allergies, and so I have sprays all over the place and aromatherapies and waxes, and I'm a walking aromatherapy, and so you can't come up sniffing me. I'm not your therapy, but aromatherapy is very, very, very powerful, and it has a calming effect. So those of you that have allergies, then I don't suggest that. Performing acts of kindness, simple daily practice of altruism can dramatically alter your outlook of the world. Remember, the outlook of PTSD has changed your outlook of the world. That narcissist has changed your outlook of the world. They've isolated you to make you think that everybody is cruel and evil and they're the only ones that care, but you can be an agent of change. You can change the way that you're thinking by doing things nice, doing nice things for people. Even in this situation where a lot of us have been through narcissist abuse, to come and provide you with education and to help you are acts of kindness that changes the way that you think. And so to focus my attention on helping you guys, because I know what it feels like, to make sure my empathy stays intact. I know what it feels like to have gone through majority of everything that you guys have gone through. And I'm not saying I went through everything. Some of you guys have went through things I've never went through, but to have gone through what I've gone through and to know what it feels like, my empathy, meaning that I have to have a good balance to turn around and to help you, changes the way that my brain was damaged. My mind is very clear. I think very clearly. Now, every now and then you catch me tired, then I'm not paying attention to you. So that's not a brain fog. That's tired. So EFT, emotional freedom technique, helps correct the biochemical short-circuiting that occurs with chronic anxiety. And so hopefully this has helped you, giving you some information on how your brain has been affected and even or damaged from being in these situations. Some of you guys can relate to the symptoms that I was talking about. Here are some, go look at Dr. Caroline Leaf. Go look her up and buy her book. or join her. She's got a I think it's like daily information. You can sign up for her, subscribe to her too. I don't know if she's on YouTube or not, because she travels a lot. But Dr. Caroline Leaf, she is a Christian psychiatrist, I think she is, but she focuses on repairing the brain. If you're not Christian, and I understand, no problem at all, take the principles out of what you're learning and apply, you know, whatever your methodology is or what your belief system is, you apply your belief system to it, but take out the principles of what she's saying. Take the principles of what she's saying to apply it to yourself. Go find a therapist that may specialize in EMDR, may 8 to 12 sessions, EMDR, and or biofeedback, aromatherapy, guided meditation. Go look on YouTube and find things consistent with guided meditation. Those of you that meditate, you know, a lot of you may be yoga practitioners, Buddhist practitioner. I know a lot of that, but that in that belief system, you do a lot of meditation. Those that are on the Christian side, you know, you get you a scripture, you get you some Christian music, meditation. I think it was what's his name? And I said it the other day. Dappy Keys, and get you a scripture and focus on that scripture. Whatever that scripture is, you focus and you meditate and turn it over in your head. You turn over new thoughts in your head. What else? Performing acts of kindness, you know, writing your book, talking to people, going to a domestic violence shelter, or going to and sharing your story. Listen to how people share their stories to help other people come out of that. Right there, you're giving back. You're fighting the narcissist by making sure that people are aware of what has happened to you and what is happening to them. And emotional freedom technique, which is the correction of the biochemical short circuiting, okay, by chronic stress. Get out of stress, get out of the relationship. So hopefully this has helped you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am Dr. Carmen Bryant, Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. And make sure you hit the bell so you know whenever I upload new videos, and I chime in whenever I go live. I'm also on Facebook under Psychological Health Consultants and Services. Hit the thumbs up. I post on both sites. Sometimes when I travel, I'm not able to come on live on both. I usually always come live on YouTube. And so if I'm unable to come live on Facebook, I will be live on YouTube. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Thank you for all my new subscribers. Thank you for your support. Share these videos. Share these videos, because you never know who may accidentally click into one of these, and they may be in that very situation that I'm talking about that day, or anybody else's videos that will help. Whatever has helped you or is helping you, share it. Don't be stingy. Share it with people. Like I said, you never know. There are videos that people say that I just popped up and started talking, and it just so happened when I popped up and started talking, they were in that exact situation at that particular time. So you never know how it works. You never know who you're sending to. You never even know the people around you who are going through what they're going through, and they may be very silent about it and won't tell. So thank you guys once again. And as my friend always says, go and be great.